There's a friend of mine that came up to me at church, and just to make sure, and there's nobody in this room. It's like, I just want to show a picture of our church. But someone came up and just said, hey, I don't connect. And I listened to their evaluation and want to understand where they're coming from. I heard how they weren't really identifying with the community. It's like, okay. But here's the thing, I've been watching and I've been noticing how this individual, this good friend, would just kind of sit in the back. And countless people would go up and introduce themselves, start a conversation to connect. And she sat in the corner, and I don't know what the conversation was, but I could tell just on the body language, there was little to no effort, which really created a self-fulfilling belief. Because if we aren't willing to step out and communicate, then we're going to struggle to connect. And then you're going to have that conversation. I was like, man, I just don't connect at church. And so for us to create a connected church, we need to take responsibility and to serve others in how we communicate, both sides. Give and receive love. That's what love is. Sometimes we need more giving, and when we're in that space, sometimes we need more receiving, but it's both. So how do we do that? Well, I want to focus on two things. If we could do these two things, people will feel served in the way that we communicate. And so the first thing that we can do, value the words of other people by listening. James 1 is a verse I say a lot in my home. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. I'm unfortunately really good at being quick to get angry, slow to listen, quick to speak. But what this means is listening is underappreciated. And it means this is so good. For those that are really good at talking, please listen. If you're talking, you're not listening. It's that simple. Because talking is just something we just naturally do. And it's a good thing. Words are good. In a sense of how God made us, did you know that when you talk, it creates dopamine in the brain, which is the reward center? So literally, when you talk, it makes you happy. Truthfully. And it means this: listening can make other people happy. Think about that. David Augsburger adds this. He wrote this in his book. Man, I can't really see this. He says, being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they're almost indistinguishable. There's a lot of classes on communicating in terms of words and speaking. We need some learning on how to listen, how to ask questions. Because think about that. Being heard makes people feel loved. And so on page 51, I think we can do a couple things. We can stop the habit of not listening. And then we can start the habit of starting a conversation with a question. Just that simple thing. Ask someone else a question. And then there's some real helpful tips here on page 51. Open up a question. Don't just say like a yes or no kind of question, but like, how are you? Or what did you do this weekend? Like try to really listen, and then think about the levels of belonging, then ask a next level question. But if we want to connect better as a church, this will do it. And it will give us an opportunity to help people feel happy and loved. Now, listening is one way that we can serve. And I think especially when you think of being a multi-ethnic church and trying to understand each other, the way to understanding is to listen. And so I think this is practical in general and specifically for the context of our church. But another thing that we can do is make church the go-to place for encouragement. I love this verse in Hebrews 10. It says, let us stir one another up to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet, but what? Encouraging one another. This means that we go beyond showing up to speaking care by communicating how we see God working in each other. That encouragement is really the idea of like speaking courage. Like you're seeing how God is working and you're communicating that in a way to help people see that God is working in them. And that strengthens the bond of our church as we feel spiritually encouraged. But this also gets harder the longer that we know each other. We start to take each other for granted. We start to just assume like this is what someone does, and we start to underappreciate them. And so I think for us as a church, we need to build each other up. And oh my word, there's a spider coming down. There we go, little guy. That was awesome. Never had that before. Oh man. Build me up now. I'm really scared. I don't like spiders. How are you working, God? So let's build up the church by mutually encouraging one another in 90% of the interactions we share with each other. Wow, 90%. That's such a high number. That's based on the fact that the church is to be defined by encouragement, but there's also a relationship expert. Now, I know it's more focused on the family. John Gottman found that that level of encouragement will build a healthy relationship. And it's not just to be positive. As a Christian, it's to encourage, which is to help people understand how God is working in their life. And so to do it well, look on page 52. And this is just a really helpful kind of framework that you can practice at home. You can practice this with your neighbor. Practice this in your marriage. So think of people that you care about, or think of people that you're working with and living with, going to school, people that you hang out for a hobby. Think of something that they did that kind of warmed your heart. And then think of a characteristic to describe it. And then you communicate it. So here's an example. With people that come and serve on Sunday, it's easy to take it for granted, right? Because they just keep coming. It's like, oh, this starts to be expected, which is never expected. It's always a gift. And I think especially for my kids, I'm with them and they're helping out. And so for them to hear me say something more than just, hey, good job setting up the church this morning. But if I looked on this list and I thought about what they did, man, committed. Think about that word. Brody, you showed me commitment in the way that you consistently show up and serve our church. Man, that little guy starts to puff up his chest. He's like, wow, right? Because it just infuses confidence and encouragement. That's what encouragement does. So think of people, think of a situation, communicate what they did, and then give it a word. It gives it an identity. And this is something that you can apply in so many different relationships. It's so helpful. It's helpful in the home. It's helpful at work. It's helpful at the FedEx place I was at on Friday morning when I encouraged someone, saying he was so reliable. Man, he just brightened up. This is good stuff. And so take a minute just to reflect on this. Every relationship takes work. How much work do you want to invest in the relationships at our church? Change a relationship by listening and encouraging. If that can be how people hear us talk as a church, can you imagine? Man, that would just change a community. And I hear it. I hear you guys encouraging. I hear you guys listening. And I think we can continue to grow.